What's up, folks? I'm Odd, by the way. My hair might be a little crazy. It's still slightly damp. Today, I thought that it would be interesting to kind of play Sid from Toy Story and make a character based off of random toys. And as you can see, I have a selection here. I wasn't able to find a random generator that I vibed with. A lot of them also included like board games, which makes sense, but I wasn't really feeling it, and this feels like a good selection. It's got kind of a retro vibe to it as well, so it kind of gives that kid core kind of ness to it, that nostalgic vibe, and I think that it would be really fun to make a character out of something like this. But we are still applying the random aspect because I have a random number generator up, and I have these 20 pictures that I have chosen with examples of kind of general concepts. Obviously, we've got like your little fuzzy felty Sylvanian's family style, living virtual pet in like the Furby, teddy bear, Milla's Pet Shops. This is a Play-Doh like hair shop. I figured it would be fun to play with that kind of like press out hair function. If possible, Tamagotchi, a bunch of other classic toys, the phone, wind-up robot, Care Bears, My Little Ponies. You get the gist. So that is what I figured we would do today. I am a bit of a Sid apologist. Okay? The most he did wrong in that film is steal toys from his sister, which I feel like is still kind of just like expected shitty sibling behavior. Like, it's not great, but it's not like antisocial. He's not crazy. Okay? If anything, it was just like Woody's bad decisions that ultimately led to him sending a very, like, attention-starved, artistically driven kid to a psych ward. Like, I can only imagine, like, he's just making things. You know, he didn't even steal Buzz and Woody. He found them in a crane machine. He won them of his own accord. Like, I don't think that he's a bad kid. He's just like that kind of kid that acts out because they feel like that's the only way they get attention, you know? But that aside is kind of a tangent. We are going to be, I think, encapsulating him a little bit today by combining these toys. So come join me, why don't you? And like I said, we have 20 pictures here that I will be dealing with, and I have my random number generator pulled up. I put in 20, and I think I will try for 2. If I get 2 that aren't like too character based or seem too similar, I might either re-roll or draw another one. So let's just see. A boop. 8. Oh, that's right. No, okay. So these are not all in order. So do I go? I gotta go by their numbers. So 8, for whatever reason, is up here, and it's a Care Bear. Okay. So that is our first selection, and let's go for something else. Generate 5. Most of them are in order, but like these top ones are a little wonky. I got My Little Pony. So the situation here is that they're very similar creatures. Like, they're horse Care Bear cousins. I think, was it Brightheart? Like, supposedly, at least in one of the stories, the horse is a horse, even though she doesn't look like one. One of the lesbian moms of the Care Bears, you know what I'm talking about? So, I feel like they're very similar kind of vibes. So I think I might re-roll that, but we'll keep the Care Bear. 20! Okay, so that's gonna be our last one, and I do think that is the Tamagotchi. Interesting. We got Care Bear and a Tamagotchi. Let's roll another and see how we feel. 11. So number 11 is these little Sylvanian family felt toys. Or, not felt, flocked. They're flocked little velveteen toys. Okay. So, I mean, like, this doesn't all really go together to me, so maybe I will just roll for another character. A boop. Well, that's the same number. Again, 10. Okay. And we've got our robot dog. We've got kind of like a mascot vibe and a robot vibe for both of these, really. I would say that these are almost similar to some degree in their own regard. Let's do one more. Generate. I already got 11. It keeps wanting to give me 11. Okay, so 2 is our wind-up robot. And generate 19. Did we already get 19? No, that is the Play-Doh. Okay, interesting. So we've got some form of like kind of plushy mascot, but like digital pet character. Maybe something you take care of akin to a Furby, but I'm not totally sure. Or it's like, it's specifically this kind of mascot character that you take care of in a digital, like a virtual pet program. We've got these like little proper dollhouse velveteen critters with kind of like multifunctional goofy robot pet. And I know there are a bunch of the civilian families, like the rabbits and the cats, I think are the ones that most come to me. I think I had a couple when I was a kid, or knockoffs, honestly. Something kind of flocked and similar-ish. I can see why they've kind of come back into fashion. And then we have a kind of very classic wind-up toy with a robot vibe, but that can be anything, I think. This kind of just representing a wind-up toy. And our press-out Play-Doh hair set situation. So maybe something to do with the wind-up key, like being how they grow their hair as well. I don't know. I will have to think on this a little bit more. And I will come back with speed paint voiceover when I have figured out what to do with them. So I will see you there. First up is the Tamagotchi and Care Bear. Initially, I thought it would make sense to have the virtual pet aspect exist in the tummy area, possibly controlling a bear body as a means of taking care of itself. As much as that idea initially sparked me, I wasn't loving the bear design itself. One thing that kept coming to me was more of an object head-like character, but I was initially worried that would negate the whole Care Bear tummy patch thing. Then I thought, well, if this is a digital character anyway, it would make sense for them to have a power display, perhaps on that tummy area. I turned the typical kind of egg shape of the display to kind of better suit the wide head, and made the screen eyes with the rest of the features surrounding the console like a hood. The nose and mouth area are the buttons used to interface with the device itself. Because both of my examples wound up purple, totally not just because it's my favorite color and I chose the entries, I figured it would make sense to keep it, as well as the electric component's cool 90s to aughts translucent shell. There's a big heart motif for this character, and I eventually even decided to replace the battery icon with a heart as well. I did a little work in post you'll see at the end, because I realized applying a light mosaic effect to the screen components made them that much easier to read as well being on the screen. I named this character Digit, obviously not the most original name, but it still felt quite fitting. Digit was originally created as a standalone virtual pet, but was turned into a more physical companion by an inventive human and given autonomy beyond that now that she could take care of herself. Its human sees Digit as sort of like a child after years of keeping the pets on Digit's original console alive and eventually bringing them to form. Digit is incredibly friendly, if it's sometimes naive. She can only communicate simply, in simple words on the screen or the built-in beeps of her console. Occasionally, Digit needs to charge through the USB on its tail, and can even load itself into computers, creating an interesting dream-like state. Running low on battery is a pain, but so is sleeping, and it's better than constantly having to replace batteries like in her infancy. Given the device's simple original coding, Digit doesn't really remember the years of care up to her awakening, but she still feels a strong sense of connection to her human that she chalks up to that over any kind of code. Next up, we have yet another robot. Specifically, though, the Sylvanian families and Poochie the robot dog. I was a little lost for direction here. I did mostly land on a somewhat Victorian-dressed rabbit character with a cyborg or android vibe going on. I wasn't really feeling the design up to as far as lining before I wound up taking a break. Sometimes the best thing for designs like this is distance and sleep. Your brain likes to solve problems then. I caught this vision of another translucent peek into the engineering, but more steampunk than digits with this golden glow to it. When I came back, I immediately got to work on that instead, and it looks much better to me. The outfit and pose were pretty well figured out on the first pass, but now they look much more cohesive. One thing I had figured out from moment one was that this wasn't necessarily a cyborg rabbit, but that the areas with fur were still solid but flocked like the Sylvanian family toys. This is an android bunny. In another moment of more associative inspiration, I felt really inclined that this character's name was Penelope. I don't think I have a character already named Penelope, so Penelope she will be. Inside the long-abandoned estate of an inventor lost to time, a group finally clearing out the place found what they presumed to be an automaton made to look like a rabbit. Upon reactivating it, they realized it was in fact a whole lot more than that. Penelope was created as an animatronic hostess for the house, likely an Easter present, and seemed to have a strange amount of sentience. She's very proper and prone to duty, the perfect butler or lady of the house, with soft, flocked hands and features to be extra welcoming. Given her new lease on life and the modern world she's entered, she's a bit lost as to her purpose. They still seem to regularly dress in era-appropriate clothing, but likely less feminine than would be required at the time. Penelope does cover a good portion of the reinforced blown glass that shows off their engineering, not out of any dislike for it, but in her own words, because any self-respecting civilized person would, despite the fact that Penelope doesn't really have the typical need to cover any parts of her body. She still seems quite easily flustered, though, so people tend to leave it alone. And finally, our wind-up toy and Play-Doh hair set. I initially intended to take this a very different direction, possibly something akin to another potential family member for my OC Doodle with a Commodore dog vibe, but I was, for lack of a better term, possessed by this other concept. What kept coming to mind was this story I heard about this supposedly cursed doll that grew hair like a human would. So, since I had already more than met my furry quota for the day, I actually willingly went for a human, or at least human-like character instead. It is a bit more forgiving to try drawing doll faces because they tend to be very exaggerated features with a bit of uncanniness to them naturally. Now I know I had a very cursed looking doll in the lineup too, but this is also a wind-up doll, so technically I'm not too far off. I went for a ball-jointed ballerina look with the key right in the heart. Though she looks cute at face value, I kind of implied she'd need to almost unhinge her jaw to speak, as well as effectively armed her. What you doing with those scissors, girl? Are you gonna cut your hair? You are just gonna cut your hair, right? I will be so real. I basically just looked up synonyms for knife and then cut before seeing the word Quill and thinking it would be a cute name. So her name is Quill. Quill is the spirit of a witch inhabiting the body of a doll she enchanted, though it wouldn't have been her first choice, simply the most available place to go after she was brutally killed by the witch hunter turned warlock she has been now tracking down for centuries. She charmed the doll to grow human hair at the turn of a winding key at her heart, which she uses to her advantage to cast spells. She's not particularly interested in malice toward any others, but she will cut down anyone who gets in her way to revenge. She has to be sparing, though, because the spell currently binding her soul to the doll is linked to the hair, and the hair spell can't be topped off just using what she has. The hair itself can also be wound back in for easier transport, but she prefers to keep it long. And those are my characters for this week. This is a really fun little exercise, and I felt particularly enamored by all these characters. The robot girls may enter my regular roster, and an immortal doll witch is just fun. So the hair thing also kind of reminds me of Bayonetta, which is always fun too. Can Quill wrap herself up in her hair? Maybe. I doubt it would be very convenient. Let me know what you think in the comments, as well as any other challenges you might like to see me do in the future. At that though, I'll leave this here, and I will see y'all next time.